Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Vicki Chats podcast. I have a very special guest in the studio with me today. Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is someone who believes history isn't just something we read about, it's something we feel. Benjamin Miller is the Director of Education at the Grout Museum District in Waterloo, Iowa, where he designs immersive learning experiences that bring science, history, and the arts vividly to life. From museum school programs to planetarium shows, his work helps audiences of all ages connect emotionally with the stories behind the facts. In addition to his role in education, Benjamin is also a documentary filmmaker dedicated to preserving community stories and veterans' voices with cinematic care and deep respect. His latest project, Voices of Iowa, Pearl Harbor, captures firsthand accounts from Iowans who witnessed the attack on Pearl Harbor and lived through the events that followed, focusing not just on history, but on the human reality behind it. At the heart of everything he does is a powerful mission to make history accessible, personal, and unforgettable, so the voices of the past remain present for the future. Benjamin, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, Vicki.
Oh, my pleasure, and such an honor to have you here. Before we dive into your work, what's one pet peeve that really gets under your skin?
Well, I have quite a few, so I'm just gonna rattle them off here. So it's the grocery store Aldi's. It should have an S, so it's Aldi's, not Aldi. Definitely, it just sounds wrong.
Right.
The fact that Cinderella lost her shoe so easily when it's supposed to fit just right.
Oh.
That fact that we call it a toothbrush and not a teeth brush. And
Yes.
I can keep going on. People that stop at stop signs waiting for them to turn green.
Oh.
I'm a victim of that one, so I can complain about it.
Yeah, right.
You know?
So, what's currently at the top of your bucket list, Benjamin? Something you still really want to experience or accomplish?
Definitely want to get to Antarctica.
Ooh,
I love
cool.
Antarctica. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
It's the environment. It's all the history that has gone on in
Yes.
exploration there. I mean, it's truly the
Yes.
last unclaimed continent, right? So it's as much
Yes.
untouched by man as we can
Right.
get in today's era. So
Profoundly beautiful.
yeah.
Yes. So, what's something about you, Benjamin, that most people in the audience would never guess?
Oh, I actually write and compose music for. I've been doing
Oh,
this
you
for a
do?
long. Since I was in junior high, I started doing this.
Yes.
But I haven't really released it. I kind of a lot of my creative projects I create and then shelf and just keep for myself.
Yeah.
But I've only recently started releasing some pieces, and the Pearl Harbor show has a lot of my music inside of it. So I'm excited to share that.
Yes.
A little nerve-wracking as well, but
Yes,
I'm excited to start sharing it. So.
That is so cool. I love it. So, growing up, what originally sparked your interest in history and storytelling?
Oh, I've always been a storyteller, right? Ever since I was a younger kid, I was writing books and creating stories.
You
And so I
were?
definitely was.
I love it.
I remember the very first book I wrote when I was like 6 or 7. It was about a little boy who hit his baseball into a pond and couldn't get it, and he went home sad.
Oh,
That
you
was
did, of
drawn,
course you
illustrated,
did.
and written in purple marker on notebook paper.
Oh
and
my
I
gosh.
still have it today.
You
So
still
I
have
do,
it.
yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. I
Yeah.
love that. So, was there a moment in your life, Benjamin, when you realized you wanted to work in education and museums?
Very early on, I'd say my very first career that I wanted to be when I was about that 6 or 7-year-old age was to be a teacher. And I would make my younger brother play school with me, and he hated it. But he put up with it, so we would play school. And then eventually I wanted to get into the Air Force, become a pilot, and then with the end goal of being an astronaut.
Oh, an astronaut.
Yeah. Then
Cool.
the military thing kind of fell through for me, and I got really into filmmaking.
Yes.
And so I ended up going to film school. And I get to do all 3 of those things: teaching,
Yes.
talk about the space, and be an astronaut kind of in our planetarium, and a filmmaker in this one position that I'm at the museum. So it's
So beautiful.
meant for me.
It was meant for you. So, how did your journey lead you to becoming director of education at the Grout Museum District?
Definitely. So during COVID, I was working from home as a cover designer and illustrator for a publisher outside of Chicago. And I kind of just needed to get out of my house for a while. And so I got a job at the Hearst Center teaching art classes, and I'm still there teaching pottery classes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and
I love the Hearst Center.
Yeah, they're awesome organization.
No, right.
But while I was working there was people that I worked with who also worked at the Grout Museum. And they encouraged me to get on board with them. And so I went on board as just a regular educator there. And then when this position opened up, I applied for it and then got it. So that's how I got to where I am.
It was meant for you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Mm-hmm. So many people picture let's talk about Pearl Harbor.
Oh, definitely.
So many people picture Pearl Harbor through black and white photos or textbook summaries, through the voices you recorded. What did December 7th, 1941 sound, feel, or even smell like to those who were there?
Yeah. So the veterans that we have interviews for that were at Pearl Harbor, you have to also take into mind the cult context of which these veterans were in the military, right? So at this time, this is just after the Great Depression. And these veterans, some of them, grew up on farms and they lost the farms in the Depression and they had no other work. So they would have to go to Pearl Harbor or have to join the military as that's the only job they could get. So when they were there and they were describing the events of Pearl Harbor, several times the interviewers would ask them a very similar question. And it was a very straightforward, short answer. Like, well, we were just there. We were just there, because they had to be there because that was their job.
Of course.
There's a very unique perspective from the D-Day and the Pearl Harbor veterans interviews that we've done for the past 2 years then that I don't really see today, which a lot of times when stuff happens, tragic and horrific things, they just put their head down and got through it, right? And because that's what had to be done. Right. And so spending time thinking about how it felt, how it smelled, all those little details, they weren't really paying attention to that because that just wasn't something that they felt was necessary at that time.
Right. Oh my gosh. Several of the men and women you interviewed were incredibly young at the time. How does hearing the attack through the lens of youth change how we understand that day?
Definitely. The youth perspective, again, kind of ties in to why they were there. Right? They grew up on farms, and some of them lost their farms, and so they had no choice but to get there. That's the only place they could find work. Some of them, one of them wanted to get away just because he was sick of Iowa. And he knew that if he joined the Navy, he could get sent to Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, and so that's why he went there. And I think that's a very a youthful perspective, right? What's the easiest way to get out of Iowa? Right? And so that's an intriguing perspective as well.
Very intriguing. Oh my gosh. The USS Arizona still rests beneath the water with over 1,100 men entombed inside. How did survivors describe living with the knowledge that their friends never left Pearl Harbor?
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is all of the veterans interviews that we have, except for one, not that they wouldn't talk about it, they definitely strayed away from that aspect of it, and we never pushed them to talk about anything that they weren't comfortable with. The one interview that we do have in which he was open and willing to talk about it, he was visibly upset and emotional, and he is featured in the documentary. And he just talks about how, from his perspective and where he was in his battle station on that day, the things he was able to see and the men that he was unfortunately had to leave behind and weren't able to help. So it's obviously a very emotional aspect. The other veterans reasonably would not talk about that aspect. So and we were okay. We weren't going to push them.
No.
To do that, so,
Yes, of course. So one of the most haunting aspects of the attack is how sudden it was.
Mm.
What do the stories reveal about the seconds or minutes when people realized this is not a drill?
Yeah. So a bit of historical context for the
Okay.
situation. So a lot of us do think and imagine it as being a sudden, unexpected attack.
Mhm.
But for the veterans and the sailors that were there and then experienced this attack, it wasn't as unexpected as we would think it was today.
Yeah.
You know, many of them did enter the Navy thinking and knowing that something was going to happen. They
Yes,
didn't know
of
the date or
course.
the time. But on that morning of December 7th, 1941, we have with the veterans interviews that we've spread out pretty much across Oahu on Wheeler Air Force or Wheeler Field up there, and then down at Battleship Row, and it was obviously a sudden and unexpected, but at the same time, once they realized who it was, every single veteran recalls looking up and seeing the big red dot on the side of the planes, and even seeing the faces of the pilots that were flying over them. Once they saw that it wasn't what's happening, it was more of, okay, it's on. Like we knew this was coming, and now we just need to get going and start to our battle stations, start doing what we need to do.
Yes, get going. Oh my gosh. So Pearl Harbor is often described as both a military disaster and a strategical failure for Japan.
Mm-hmm.
How do personal accounts complicate or humanize that larger historical narrative?
Yeah, and I'm really glad you phrased it how you phrased that question, because for all of our interviews and our documentaries that we do based off these interviews, these are through their perspective.
Right.
You know, whether it is factually accurate or not, with how we teach it today and what we know of it, this is how they perceived it. And so we're not going to challenge it, right? This is their experience. And their experience, kind of harking back to the previous question, is that it wasn't as expected, or unexpected, I should say, as a lot of us would have thought today. One of the veterans, even before he joined the Navy, his father told him, who was a World War I veteran, that if you join, you're going to be part of the next World War. You know, so it wasn't as expected. For this project, we definitely had to research and do a lot into Japan and why they did what they did. After the First World War, they definitely had this expansion mindset. You know, they had to expand in order to sustain their growing military and economy. And with the U.S. tried to warn them to hold off. You're going too fast, you know, and they attacked China and invaded several other of the nations around them. And so when Pearl Harbor happened, the Japanese felt like there was no other choice. They had to do this. There was more of the attack that was supposed to happen, but because after the first two waves, they felt like we no longer have the element of, or the Japanese no longer have the element of surprise. They felt like what they, if they were to continue doing it, it would be, it wouldn't be able to be as effective as what it did. So they ended up withdrawing and not going forward with the rest of the attack. And so it's really intriguing to look back at it from their perspective and why they did what they did, and how they didn't even go through with the full attack, right? They felt like they had no other choice but to do this. America put on economic embargoes. They stopped their oil, which would immediately freeze up their military and their economic endeavors as well.
Of course. So did any of the Iowans that you interviewed, Benjamin, talk about the moment they learned the U.S. would enter World War II and what that realization meant for the future?
It was, for their perspective, it was more of a matter of time. They knew they were going to enter at some point. Excuse me. And so when they, when it finally happened, it was not a surprise that we were going to enter World War II, right? Within 1 week, we declared war on Japan, and then Hitler declared war on us, right? And so on both fronts right away, we held off for as long as we thought we could, and then we got into it. From the veterans' perspective, again, it was just a matter of time, right? People knew this was an inevitability. It was going to happen. And what's interesting about our collection of interviews, we have over 2,000 interviews from Iowa veterans.
Really?
And from the veterans that were around from during that time, our interviewers did a really good job.
Wonderful.
Even if they weren't involved with Pearl Harbor, they ask every single one of them, where were you? What were you doing? What were you thinking when you first heard about Pearl Harbor? And so we have so many responses across the gambit of Iowans' perspective when they first heard Pearl Harbor, which means, when we first launched ourselves into World War II. And again, kind of to support what I said earlier, a lot of them, they knew it was going to happen. It was a matter of time.
Exactly.
So it wasn't as unexpected as we tend to think it is today.
Right, right. So viewers who one day might visit Pearl Harbor, especially the USS Arizona Memorial, what context from your documentary would help them experience that space more meaningfully?
Definitely. So if you get the chance to go to the USS Arizona Memorial in Oahu, my hope is that after seeing this documentary, that you will be able to have a stronger Iowa connection to the events that happened on that day. We have interviews from a gentleman that were on the USS Arizona, and they survived it. And so you're going to be able to see these stories, and if you go there, you're going to be able to feel that connection. You're going to be able to see the oil that's still leaking out from that memorial, 85 years ago. And my one goal for this project and for all the Voices of Iowa documentaries we do is to really establish that Iowa connection. Right? This is the event that changed history, right? It launched the United States into World War II, and yet Iowans had a part in it. We were witness to it. And so if they do go there, and my goal is that they are able to feel that connection with their home.
Oh my gosh. And, I forgot to ask you this question, but it's a burning question of mine. At what point did documentary filmmaking as a whole become part of your storytelling toolkit? It's so cool that you do this.
Yeah. So having gone to film school, filmmaking has been part of me. Right? And so even after school, I continued making projects on the side, kind of independently. And then once I got the job at the museum, that's one of my first venture into documentary filmmaking. I've always been an avid consumer of documentaries. My favorite things to watch sometimes on DVDs back in the day when we had DVDs was the behind the scenes documentaries and stuff like that. And so once I became involved with the museum, making documentaries just kind of naturally evolved into and fit into that.
It's beautiful. And we talked about the fact that I recently visited my dear friend Jane in Cedar Rapids, and because my mama had passed recently, she wanted to help me. So she said, Vicki, I know you love museums. So we're going to museums as part of what we're doing. And I loved it. And she said, and we'll also go dancing. And I'm like, perfect weekend. And then at the end of the weekend, she brought out a big box of all these VHS tapes and said, take one, whatever you want. And I look through them, I'm throwing them until I see Pearl Harbor. And I'm like, that's mine. Oh, wow. It's like, it's a story that needs to be told in the right way. Exactly. So I'm so excited about it. So tell us a little bit more about what's going on.
Definitely. So in honor of the 85th anniversary of Pearl Harbor this coming December of 2026, we have created a documentary called The Voices of Iowa, Pearl Harbor. So we have a program within our museum called Voices of Iowa, and we go around and we collect video interviews of Iowa veterans. And we have over 2,000 of these interviews right now. And we just took a handful of them that were at Pearl Harbor, and we compiled them into this documentary that's about 50 minutes long. It is going to premiere on January 30th at 6 and 7:30 p.m. for our members. It's free for members. If you're not a member and want to come to that January 30th on Friday premiere, contact the museum to get a membership. Or if you're not a member, or if you're a veteran, you can come the following day on Saturday, December 31st. At 1 o'clock, we have a veterans and active duty screening. So if you're a veteran or active duty, you can come for free to see this documentary. And then at 3 o'clock and 4:30, we do have public showings as well. all of these, you do have to pre-register because we have limited space and they are filling up. We get registrations all the time for these. So if you want to attend these, I would recommend not hesitating. I'd jump on the opportunity to do this.
Yes.
And we are going to have DVDs available for purchase of this production. Yeah.
Yes.
Eventually down the line, we're going to figure out some sort of streaming option. But for right now, the DVD will be available as well.
So beautiful. Yeah. And how do they register?
Yeah, you can go to our website at groutmuseumdistrict.org. And if you click on the calendar tab, you can find the event and register that way. Or you can just call into the museum at 319-234-6357.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Any closing thoughts?
I'm immensely appreciative of the opportunity to take these veterans' stories, to be entrusted with them, and to put them together into a narrative and a storyline that will hopefully connect with the viewers. And a goal I have is that if you walk out of this documentary and you go up to a veteran and shake their hand and feel them more appreciative of them, then I feel like I've succeeded. So I hope that you guys have that experience when you come and visit the museum to watch this documentary.
Oh, how beautiful mic drop moment. Yes. Thank you so much, Benjamin. It's been a pleasure and an honor. Again, gmdistrict.org, or you can call, just be there or be square, because you know what? Benjamin has your 6.
That's right.
Okay. Bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.